Hello and welcome. I'm Leigh-Ann Gerrans and you're watching W News Extra, broadcasting live from the Al Arabiya studios. These are our top stories. Trump says US forces have seized an oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela, with Caracas condemning the move as an act of piracy. NATO chief Mark Rutte has warned that member states are Russia's next target. And the Trump gold card is launched for the wealthy foreigners willing to part with $1 million. Now, US President Donald Trump has said US forces have seized an oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela. On releasing a video of the seizure, Attorney General Pam Bondi said the vessel was a crude oil tanker used to transport sanctioned oil from Venezuela and Iran. Caracas condemned the move as an act of international piracy. Here's how Trump announced that very news.
As you probably know, we've just seized a tanker on the coast of Venezuela, large tanker, very large. Largest one ever seized, actually. And other things are happening. No, it was seized for a very good reason.
We're interested in the seizure of this tanker. What happens to the oil on this ship?
Well, we keep it, I guess.
To discuss this and all of today's stories, I'm joined by correspondent and columnist Gemma White and Al Arabiya English presenter Catalina Marchant de Abreu. Thank you so much to both of you for being in the studio with me on this Thursday. Gemma, let's start with you, because we obviously heard from Donald Trump there, but this has been an ongoing issue now that we've been seeing between the US and Venezuela over the last few months. But is this escalation a time where we're really going to see things begin to change?
Yeah, this is quite a dramatic twist. So what we have here, we have the boarding of a foreign ship in international waters. So it is escalating. Now, previously, the operation has struck so far around 20 boats. And the message had always been, this is an anti-drug trafficking mission. We're preventing these drugs from coming into the US. That was always the message. I do feel that this now changes that message. What that's going to come out as, we don't yet know. So we've seen this build-up of US military in the Caribbean. We're seeing fighter jets flying regularly. And Trump has increased his rhetoric when he talks about striking on land. Now, does this become a land invasion? Now, the fact is that the use of military force means that Trump is constitutionally required to get authorization from Congress, which he hasn't pursued at all. There's not been any processes put in place for that. And also, what are Trump's intentions towards Venezuela? Is it just purely to be beneficial to the US? And is the president acting legally in all of these things that he's doing? They are the key components at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so many questions that we don't have the answers to right now, and the repercussions of what Venezuela will look like without Maduro in power, and how that could be destabilizing for the country. But Catalina, I want to come to you, because it's all been about Venezuela's opposition leader at the moment. Of course, she accepted the Nobel Peace Prize. You've actually interviewed her yourself before. How will this further affect Maduro's position? Because, of course, she's been in Oslo, she's been doing the rounds on TV, she's really in the spotlight now.
Exactly, Lana. Speaking of the spotlight and momentum, when Maria Corina Kochal was faced with two scenarios when awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, she was saying to go or not to go, obviously given the acute safety situation concerns that she was facing. So in one hand, the people in her inner circle were saying, don't risk your life, not even for a prize. We need you here alive to fight Maduro. Then she was faced with another option. They said, do this for your country, no matter the risk. And finally, this was a no-brainer for her. When the decision was put in this context, there was only one option to take. She said, go for the people of Venezuela at all costs. So we're seeing all this media coverage, this courageous political act. It's actually out of a movie script. Reportedly, she also said she had the Americans help her. We still, as you said, don't have the details about this secret mission. I'm sure it was very risky and her life was at risk. So she finally didn't make it on time to the prize ceremony, but she made it safe. All of this, as you said, getting the spotlight required to put Maduro down. Who knows? Because all eyes are on. So what's going to happen next for Venezuela? So to answer your question, Leigh-Ann, how is this going to further affect Maduro's position? Well, as this is the U.S. side, Donald Trump has said that Maduro's days are counted because since 2024, when Marchant was robbed from the election results, she won with 93% of the Venezuelan people. There hasn't been this much worldwide and media attention on what's happening in Venezuela and this region. So the momentum right now is let's free Venezuela, let's bring democracy back to this country. All eyes on Venezuela, so this can't be a good thing for Maduro. Pressure is on.
What I find really fascinating about all of this is the geopolitics that's been playing out. So you spoke there about Machado, and of course she accepted the Nobel Peace Prize. She actually dedicated that prize to Donald Trump himself. And it seems like Donald Trump is really aligned with what she sees happening in Venezuela. They've almost echoed the same sentiment when it comes to the country and when it comes to democracy, which I find really interesting. But then I found it even more interesting that Russia's President Putin, in a phone call today with Venezuela's Maduro, expressed solidarity with the Venezuelan people and confirms Russian support, which is absolutely fascinating because if we look at Ukraine, it looks like Donald Trump is in line with the more Russian sentiment. That's the kind of what analysts have been saying.
Yeah.
So right now we've got this triangle of geopolitics playing out. I don't know what you think, Gemma, and we can't forget China in all of this.
Yeah.
And I wonder, is it because Venezuela has the biggest crude oil reserves in the world? Is this all about... I have no idea. What are your thoughts?
I think you were right. Like before the show, you were saying ultimately this could come down to economics and resources. The world, as we know, is clamoring for resources. And I always like to think, oh no, there's bigger things at play here. But ultimately, you know, what's Russia doing in Ukraine? They want more resources, they want more land. Perhaps at the end of the day, it does come down to something so basic as wanting the oil.
I find it interesting too, and I don't know what your thoughts are, but we did see the US obviously do that minerals deal with Ukraine for critical minerals. We have seen the US trying to push back on China's access to critical minerals across the world, be it in Africa, be it in lots of different countries. I don't know if I'm reading into this too much, but is economics playing out in this, or does Venezuela just really need a democracy and a change for the people?
I think economics is always at play, especially when we're talking about so many oil reserves, as you said, one of the largest in the world. But this also plays and coincides with the political moment that they are living. 2024, she was robbed from an election. 93% of the Venezuelan people voted for her. This was just 1 year ago. Now she's winning the Nobel Peace Prize. So even when it comes down to politics or economics and democracy, the moment is aligned.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens because, like you did say, Gemma, for such a long time, Donald Trump has been almost threatening in a way that a land invasion could happen. And with a buildup of troops that we're seeing, American troops in the region, I guess time is ticking.
What is his end game?
Yeah.
You know, because if this doesn't work out for Trump, he's going to come away with egg on his face. It has to work out for him, or what? You know, I think this is a question we say, or what's going to happen? If he succeeds in removing Maduro, this creates a power vacuum. We know that Maduro has spent all these years building up his alliances. He has the military on his side. He has administration on his side. What happens when you remove that person? Is the US then going to go in and offer support? So then what does that mean for Ukraine? What does that mean on the other side of the world? There's so many moving pieces here, but Trump has to succeed in this. Otherwise, he's going to look really foolish on the world stage.
Yeah, and like you said, it's really important. Repercussions of something like this are very interesting. But thank you so much for your thoughts on that. Stay right there as we move on to another story now. And NATO chief Mark Rutte has warned that member states are Russia's next target. He made the remarks at a security conference event in Berlin and also said the bloc must make all efforts to prevent a conflict that could be on the scale of war our grandparents and great-grandparents endured. Take a listen.
We are Russia's next target. And we are already in harm's way. When I became NATO Secretary General last year, I warned that what is happening in Ukraine could happen to allied countries too. That we had to shift to a wartime mindset. We need to be ready. Because at the end of this first quarter of the 21st century, conflicts are no longer fought at arm's length. Conflict is at our door. Russia has brought war back to Europe. And we must be prepared for the scale of war our grandparents and great-grandparents endured.
Catalina, we just heard from Mark Rutte there, and those remarks are scary. They're gloomy. What's the whole point of the speech? To really get Europe to wake up to the reality of what's happening?
I do feel he's been trying to do this, wake Europe up for a while now. Since the war in Ukraine began, he's been warning the world that Europe could be Russia's next target, although never, as you say, with this gloomy of a tone. We haven't heard that before. He also previously said that Europe has to be war ready, he says, by 2029, launching this warning that Russia could launch an attack by then. These statements come from a 2023 NATO assessment that suggested that within the next 3 to 5 years, Russia could be in a position to wage a large-scale war. Could. He's not confirming this, but he said it could be a possibility. So the point of this speech, some people are calling it alarmist. Others call it a necessary warning, a wake-up call for Europe, who's been dormant until now. So I don't believe it's only the only purpose of this speech. It's not just for shock value. I think it is a calculated attempt by Rutte to stress the urgency of the situation and to deter Russia and other threats in the coming years. He's pushing for allies to invest more in Europe. So his message is clear. He's saying, prepare now or risk paying for it later.
I find his comments really interesting because if I do think about it, I think he is seeing Russia as a major threat, like Catalina did say. But I do think when we look at Russia's invasion of Ukraine, they haven't done that well.
Yeah,
it's been 4 years. Yeah. It's been grinding on. It hasn't been what people expected it to be. Ukraine have really held their own, which has been a surprise to many people after Putin and the Russian army was expected to be so strong. So I find it really interesting what he's coming out and saying. But I do find another thing interesting. We're seeing the coalition of the willing. Yes. I like to call them the coalition of the talking because they don't seem to be getting much done.
There was more talking done as well today.
More talking, of course, more talking about talking. I sometimes compare it to like, I don't know. Anyway, let's talk about the coalition of the willing, because they're meeting today again.
They're meeting at the moment. Yeah, it's happening right now. More talking.
Yeah, more talking.
Yep. Little things are kind of starting to come out now. This was co-chaired by Starmer and Macron, about 30 nations coming together, video conference, obviously including Zelensky. And this was about discussing, obviously, the most recent terms of the US peace deal, which Zelensky has just recently commented on, which I'll go into in a moment. Now, it was obviously about the drawing up of security measures as and when this peace deal gets signed. You know, they're trying to get ahead of things quite late in the game, really. But the UK government has come out and said that one of the main topics for discussion was on mobilising the frozen sovereign assets of Russia, which I see different figures, but at the moment, 335 billion, which was then going to be loaned to Ukraine. Now, that opens up a whole can of worms with regards to Belgium, who have said they are going to take legal action if the nations come together and try and do this. Now, also, Zelensky has come out and said that, that the US is pushing the Ukraine to withdraw from Donbass and create what he has said is a free economic zone. Now, you and I were saying we don't really know what this means. Possibly no one yet knows what this means. This is more words being bandied about. But yeah, what does a free economic zone, which is what they would turn Donbass into, Russia on one side, Ukraine on the other, and what this free economic zone is supposed to just magically stop anyone from coming into it.
It's an interesting term because I think that all three of us can agree is we don't actually know the ins and outs of what this new 20-point peace plan looks like. Obviously, we saw the 28-point peace plan that was up, and that was hugely alarming because it did seem to favour Russia. Now we have this 20-point peace plan. We don't know the details of it, but we're starting to get something. And I find the US has apparently proposed the creation of a free economic zone in the area of Donbass it wants Ukraine to withdraw from. So once again, I think the main sticking points in these talks are right now land and security guarantees. And I wonder if the only way Ukraine can deter Russia is if it does give up the Donbass. I wonder if this is now where we're moving to when it comes to these peace talks.
I think it kind of is. I think it kind of also aligns with what the U.S. is. I mean, at the end of the day, Ukraine knows that they're going to have to give up some land. So whether they like it or not, they're going to have to negotiate land, and this is how it's going to be. What if they want peace with Russia? But I think they're doing it in a more friendly way when it comes to Europe, and they're saying how they can favor Ukraine more in these negotiations. But I think it's all up to grabs still. We don't know what's part of the peace plan in the U.S. There's a lot of drafts coming around, nothing concrete just yet.
I wonder, could this be the get-out clause, the creation of this zone? Maybe it's the way to let everyone walk away. They can kind of claim victory, and they can finally end the war. And maybe it is the get-out clause that Zelensky should be reaching for.
And I think this has been something that lots of analysts have been talking about time and time again when it comes to trying to reach some sort of deal, because we've seen Ukraine with red lines. Putin and Russia are obviously the aggressor, but they have stuck to the fact that they do want this territory. And obviously they haven't claimed the whole of Donbass. So I find it absolutely fascinating that we're now back to the main sticking points that have been the same ones since we started talking about this peace agreement months ago. Since Donald Trump almost came into power, it's nearly been a year that the same sticking points remain. And if all goes well, we actually also saw Ukraine. Zelensky says he discussed security guarantees, and that was today with Marco Rubio, Pete Hegseth, Steve Witkoff, so the big guys in the US. And it'll be interesting to see if Zelensky does travel to the States this weekend to present that plan, because Donald Trump says he doesn't want him to if it's going to be a waste of time. So I wonder if now we're reaching that critical stage.
And who would administrate this region? And what would they call themselves? It's almost like the creation of a new kind of mini country in itself.
And they're a nicer problem. Where are these security guarantees? Who is going to monitor these? It's very difficult.
And what do the people of Donbass want? You know, they're just being told, you're going to become this zone. Again, no one's kind of asking all these millions of people what they would want. Yeah, it's every time a solution is found, it creates a whole other bunch of other problems. So
yeah, it's absolutely fascinating. We'll see what happens actually in the future and over the weekend, because we seem to be getting drip-fed lines, and we don't really know what's happening. So thank you for your thoughts there. Let's move on to another story now. And President Trump has launched the Trump Golden Card, offering wealthy foreigners a fast-track US visa if they can cough up $1 million. The US president told followers successful applicants will have a direct path to citizenship as long as they can provide a substantial benefit to the country. This comes as Washington continues its immigration crackdown with mass deportations and an increase to work visa fees. Gemma, I must admit something. I did not know about all of this, but hopefully you can tell me more. How do people apply for one of Trump's golden cards? And do you get like amazing privileges? Because it's not cheap.
It's, first of all, be rich.
Be rich.
Okay, that's the number one rule of applying for a Trump gold card. Be rich. So this was announced back in February. Now, this is the gold card, and foreigners who wish to apply for it, they have to be paying at least $1 million. That doesn't include all the additional fees as well that you'll be paying.
Wow.
So you've got to stump up $1 million to begin with.
Yeah.
Now, it promises US residency in record time. On the website, they're saying it could be a matter of weeks, when, as we know at the moment, going through the normal processes for a green card or a visa can take months or years, so really expedited. Now, applicants also have to demonstrate that they can offer substantial benefit to the US, whether that's investment, whether that's job creation. So there has to be further proof of that. You can't just turn up with $1 million and get your visa.
Okay.
You have to show that you're going to be investing in certain regions as well. That's not even the top tier card, okay? That is the platinum card, obviously, Trump's platinum card as well. Now, that is a cool $5 million.
Wow.
Okay, now what you get substantial benefits for that. What you get is the chance to spend up to 270 days in the US, tax-free. And Lutnick, the United States Secretary of Commerce, now he's suggested that the money they make from all of these visas could generate up to $1 trillion, and that could be used to tackle the national debt.
Okay. So we're at this 1 million gold card, 5 million for a platinum card. But my question to both of you ladies, if you had that kind of volume of money, would you want to live in the US? So Lutnick and Donald Trump are kind of countering on that all the rich people want to live there. But I don't know if that's the case.
We said
I
no,
think this
didn't
is
we
something
earlier?
we I think we'd stay in the region we are right now. Even if we had to pick, we'd pick something, you know, a hub that's closer to other hubs, maybe to Europe, to Asia. We're even also close to the United States. It's easy to travel. Personally, I don't think I'd be picking the United States.
I find it absolutely fascinating that there is this sort of rhetoric coming out that everyone wants to live in the United States. But Catalina, let's talk about these gold cards, because this isn't anything new. Lots of countries offer golden visas. We're in one.
Exactly, but not just other countries. The U.S. also already has had their own version of this investor-type visa. It's being replaced by their ancient program that's called the EB-5 Immigrant Investor Program. So, yes, many other countries as well. We have the UAE region, the Caribbean. There's also Europe that has this investor-based citizenship program, similar to the golden visa concept that Donald Trump is now proposing. So here in the UAE, for example, we have this golden visa. It's a long-term 10-year visa for investors. This is via real estate or business investment. Several European countries also have this golden visa. There's Greece, Spain, Portugal, Italy, and especially Malta. They have citizenship by investment program called a golden passport. So this passport scheme has actually been ruled illegal by the European Court of Justice just this year, claiming that citizenship cannot be reduced to a commercial transaction, setting a precedent now actually for the European continent. We'll see what will happen. But in short, yes, the UAE, Caribbean continents, as well as several European countries already have this golden program that is now being discussed by Donald Trump.
I find it fascinating because if we think about it, Donald Trump is now touting the golden and platinum visa. They're a lot more expensive than the ones that you can probably get anywhere else in the world. But at the same time, we've seen this huge push and on the crackdown on immigration into the US. You know, ICE, we've seen the National Guard deployed to all several cities. It's quite a confusing message, Gemma.
Yeah, I mean, Lutnick as well, he's put his position quite clear, and he says this program will ensure the best people coming in. By best, read rich, read wealthy, read people with money. And he has previously said that at the moment, the US visa process allows for the bottom quartile of immigrants to come in. You're really seeing people being othered by their economic, prosperity, by how rich you are. You're either seen as best or you're seen as bottom quartile. So, yeah, it's very interesting. They want to welcome all these people in to create jobs and invest. And who's going to be doing the jobs that you're creating if you're trying to get rid of people who are working class people or blue collar people who have been traditionally working those roles, perhaps in agriculture and construction? Who's going to be there to do the jobs?
Or to process your visa. I think that's one of the big questions. And also Donald Trump, in order to get more of a grip on immigration and people visiting the country, I don't know if you saw that story yesterday, but he was saying that if you wanted to apply for a visa into the US, like I've got a British passport, so you can get an ESTA, and you can pay for that. And apparently now if you want to apply for an ESTA, you have to send, and they'll look at your social media going back 5 years, which is absolutely fascinating, isn't it? Because everyone's had an opinion.
Who's going to be doing this as well? Like, that's, especially next year, it's the World Cup. There are going to be so many people, myself included. We're going to watch some games there. They are about to face like this enormous, influx of tourists. And what? So they're going to be looking at the past 5 years of everyone's social media. Again, is it one of those things that he says with no kind of thought to it?
I'd personally be deterred from doing this. Like, who's going to bring up all their history from 5 years of social media to go to the United States?
Oh, you wore that? Oh my God, that's terrible.
Oh.
That's so out of fashion now. You can't come into the country. I mean, what criteria are you going to be judged on?
Well,
terrible memes? I don't know.
There's lots of different speculation. That's the problem. No one really knows what criteria is. Some papers are saying allegedly it could be if you've criticised Donald Trump. Other papers are saying it could be allegedly if you have backed a terrorist organisation that's been recognised in the US. It's to keep the country safer. But there's lots of different reasons, but the solid one hasn't been outlined yet.
I think they have been doing this already, though. There was the case of the French scientist. He went, I think, in a work or tourist visa, and they checked his social media history where he was a bit critical of Donald Trump, and he wasn't allowed in.
Wow.
So I think they've already been applying this social media type of surveillance on people that are traveling to the United States, whether it be a work visa or a tourist visa. But I think they're just going to be applying this to the general population now.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting, like you said, the World Cup you're going to, you better start applying for your visa now.
I better start clearing up my social media.
You
Not that
better.
there's anything
Yeah.
controversial on
Delete.
it. Yes.
Yeah. But if it's on social media, you can't ever really delete it.
It's there forever.
It's there forever. Yeah, that's why I wish I hadn't got Facebook when I was about 12. Anyway, moving on. Let's go to another story now. Do you take Bitcoin? Well, if you're in the Swiss city of Lugano, the answer is yes. Around 350 shops and restaurants accept cryptocurrency there. You can even pay for childcare. Catalina, I do not think I pronounced the name right. I'm sure you can tell us exactly what it is. But tell us more. How does this work, and is it the future?
This is called Plan B, Leigh-Ann. Will this be your Plan B or Plan A?
I feel like
Plan C?
I feel like at the moment I'm working in cash for loads of different reasons.
Plan C then.
So I think
You're
this
on
is
Plan
my
C.
Plan C, yeah.
We're still on Plan C right now.
Yeah.
But this is the city of Lugano's official initiative, so it's making cryptocurrency, especially Bitcoin, of course, it's largely known, usable in regular, everyday transactions across the city. So this would be the case as we do with regular credit cards, debit cards, cash. So it's a public-private effort. It's led by the city in partnership with crypto infrastructure providers like Tether and Bitcoin Suisse to build, they're calling this a practical crypto payment ecosystem. So why is this important now? It's not just because it's letting people pay with Bitcoin or crypto, but it's also building a full city-wide payment network where Bitcoin is treated as a real spending option, which it wasn't before. It's not just before it was investment or also speculation assets. So this is making it one of the most advanced examples of everyday crypto adoption in Europe. Is it the future? I mean, this is new for Europe perhaps. Numerous places like Dubai, for example, especially in real estate, hospitality, and the luxury sector, already accept Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies as a form of payment. So this also positions Dubai as a global crypto hub already. So why not adopt this in other cities or countries, giving people more payment options?
What I find fascinating is, I didn't look up the price of Bitcoin, but I do normally keep a close eye on it. Let's say it's around $60,000 a Bitcoin at the moment, give or take, okay? And a coffee is like $8. So what happens? It's like 0.0000 of a Bitcoin, which I find quite fascinating, because obviously when you look at Bitcoin, it's in one coin, you know, so you've got 60,000 in one Bitcoin wallet.
Yeah.
You know, so to spend on that would be so weird to see your transactions coming out anyway.
Like balancing your checkbook
I know,
back in the day.
0.83 on a coffee or something like that. Anyway, Gemma, it's quite interesting because Catalina mentioned it there, but Dubai, pretty open to crypto actually.
Yeah.
And could we see more cities taking the sort of stance when it comes to currencies like crypto?
I mean, Dubai is a leader, you know, on the world stage when it comes to adopting new technologies and being open and amenable to these. And the government is piloting a scheme whereby you can pay, you know, fees, government fees and services with crypto. But at the moment, as you say, the hospitality industry, there are certain places where you can pay by crypto here. Now, in the US, you've got Detroit, New York, Colorado, Utah, and Louisiana, and they currently accept payment, but for municipal, you know, payments. So again, taxes, permits, fines, and fees. That seems to be where many cities who are adopting this, that's what you can pay for. You can't just, you know, go to a coffee shop at the moment and pay, or go to McDonald's, which I saw in Lugano. You can pay for your Big Mac with Bitcoin as well. So worldwide, you've got Buenos Aires and Panama City, and then upcoming you've got Cannes and Vancouver. They're kind of becoming newer crypto cities where governments, you know, you can pay for your fees and services. Now, it's slow going. You know, you mentioned before the show, crypto's been around for a long time now, and you still don't think they've got to where they thought they would be, you know, at this point.
Yeah, it's quite interesting because I've talked about crypto, I think, throughout my whole career, especially Bitcoin. And I remember doing a lot of work about Ecuador. It was called the Bitcoin experiment, because you must remember countries like Ecuador, and you look at other countries, you know, their currency has fallen so low, they adopt the US currency as the currency to use because of inflation and because of their own currency problems. So they did adopt Bitcoin. And I found it really interesting because loads of people took that on as an experiment, and it faced a lot of hurdles when it came to Ecuador using Bitcoin. And one of the main reasons is it's not tangible. And I think that's been the problem with Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin is a really good theory, but I think people still like to know where their money is. They still like to make sure that it's pegged to something like the US dollar, and they understand that they can pay in a note, and they can see their currency in a bank account. It's quite different when it comes to Bitcoin. And of course, economic stability is a major thing for small countries like Ecuador and countries around the world. And Bitcoin's been historically volatile, so it's very difficult for them to be able to build a stable economy on a volatile currency. Bitcoin, also another thing about Bitcoin is energy, resources, how much mining Bitcoin takes, and how that could be environmentally impactful, where they're going to keep on getting this energy from. I do think that that's the old school of thought, because that's maybe what people were saying ages ago, but now everyone, the youngsters, dare I say it, they're probably more inclined to be less fearful of using Bitcoin, because maybe they're not like us old school who likes to use our notes.
And I guess we have to remember that once upon a time, a cheque was a brand new and newfangled thing, and a credit card was brand new. But just continuing what you were saying about kind of the disadvantages, there's no regulatory framework. And one has to wonder as well if there's going to be a global, you know, legal framework, or if every country's going to have its own. And at the moment, most governments still require that conversion goes back to local currency.
Yes.
So getting people to part with their credit cards and swap it out for crypto, I think, is still quite in its infancy. What are your thoughts?
I think it's going to be, if other countries are doing it and you could follow the role, for example, the example that Dubai has set, maybe it could normalize the situation. I still don't know who are the people who are using most of these Bitcoins.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's more tech people and et cetera. But I think it could be more normalized but I think it's still experimental. So we're going to look at this city, we're going to see the results, we're going to see if it works in a more developed country. When we're talking about Latin America, or a country like Ecuador or El Salvador, where perhaps their currency is also not as stable and they're also trying to experiment. Yeah. So I think Bitcoin is a type of coin of experimentation where we could try other currencies. We'll see if it works out or not.
Yeah.
And I find it fascinating because, talk about Ecuador just quickly and African countries and El Salvador, places who've looked to adopt this. A lot of the problem is in Dubai, it's quite easy to adopt because we have technology and we have infrastructure. But you look at parts of other countries and they don't have that tech infrastructure other than in urban areas. Yeah. It's a very tech-based. So somewhere like Dubai, it's kind of perfect. But when you look at other countries, it's a little bit more difficult. But it's a really interesting conversation. Maybe I'll be buying my first Hermes handbag in Bitcoin. Who knows? Now, it's that time of the show where Gemma and Catalina have chosen two of their quirkiest stories of the day. And Gemma, it's almost the end of the year.
Yes.
Tell us the best buys for 2025.
So the roundups are coming in.
Yeah.
I love an end of year roundup. I find it very interesting. Your Spotify Wrapped and all of these things.
No, that was irritating.
Netflix should do that, don't you think?
Spotify Wrap was just irritating.
When it tells you your age, it tells you how old you are from the music you've been listening to. Yeah. I do think Netflix should kind of tell you what you've been watching over the year as
well.
So this is UK retailer John Lewis, and they've done their annual How We Shop, Live and Look report. So these are the big things that we were buying this year.
Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, my favourite, big pants for ladies. But I mean that pants in the UK version.
Big knickers.
Yes, not in the US version. Bridget Jones is back, clearly. Big knickers are in. Swimsuit season in October, which I found very interesting. The sale of swimsuits has gone up by 28% in October, which in the UK is freezing cold. Yeah. I think there's a lot more people kind of going wild swimming, as you said before, like saunas, ice baths and things like that. Or maybe they're just all going off to the Caribbean in October and they want their swimsuits there. But yeah, sort of... swimwear is becoming a bit not just for the summer, so that was quite interesting. This puzzled you. Glasses and tumblers shaped like fish. Yeah, so fish-shaped tumblers. Very, very 2025. Everyone's loving that. And anything paddle as well.
I bought paddles,
brackets
this year.
Okay.
Yeah. Fish, I don't understand.
Have you bought a fish tumbler?
Oh gosh,
no.
Right,
no. Made it viral.
No.
Find out.
I have to look at them. I can't get my head around fish. I thought that's quite retro. Didn't they have them in the 60s where you had I remember my grandparents had a glass vase on the table and it was shaped like a fish.
Yeah, maybe it's kind of and quite Scandi as well, I think. And two things that are out, skinny jeans for men. And double beds. Now, in the UK, the beds are tiny. Yes. It's a bugbear of mine, but they are gone now, double beds. It's all about the Super King. So in 2025, the UK has woken up to the Super King.
Finally.
Decades after everyone else.
I think quite controversially, I don't mind skinny jeans on a man. I don't know what
it can look, no, if it's part of the style, yeah, I don't mind them, yeah.
It's a no for me.
It's a no from you.
It's a no for me. Letting everyone know. No skinny jeans.
If you want to go on a date with Catalina, please do not wear skinny jeans. I quite like them sometimes. I think there's a vibe about them. But anyway, I'm glad they've also gone out for women because I felt like I wore skinny jeans for way too many years.
It was a long time, yeah.
Far too long. Catalina, and your story is about a really very lucky skydiver. What happened?
Do we have the images?
Do we have the images? I'm sure they'll come up.
They'll come up. So
there we
go. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness.
So the images speak for themselves. I'm traumatized. If someone was already asking me to go skydiving, I was saying no. No, it's a triple no. But here you see it. You see the moment the skydiver's parachute, it wraps around the wing, so it leaves them hanging mid-air. You see the scary moment. The footage was released by the Australian Transport Safety Bureau. These images are actually from September in Australia. So what happened, in case someone wants to go skydiving and avoid this incident? The video shows the skydiver's reserve parachute that accidentally deployed while he was getting ready to jump out that door. So that is what caused the incident. Eventually, the skydiver did cut himself free and survived the incident with minor injuries.
Wow.
So this is actually extremely rare, not the injuries, but it seems that basically the statistic of having to use this reserve parachute because of any type of malfunction is actually 1 in 1,000 skydiving jumps. So personally, I'd rather not even take that 1 in 1,000 chance.
That's quite low. That's quite low odds for me.
Quite low
Still not
odds.
taking it. Yeah, taking any chance.
But what I find fascinating is that other people just kept on jumping out while he was stuck. I think if I saw that happen, I'd be like, I'm staying in this plane and you're landing it. I find it quite fascinating. Look, other people are just going for
Like,
it.
excuse me, there's a guy stuck to the plane.
Yeah, would you be like, I'm sorry, I'm out?
They were like, we paid for it, we're going.
Yeah.
You figure it out.
I'm not sure, but he was obviously very experienced and was able to get out of the situation. Like, that's quite a tough position to be in, isn't it? I just find it terrifying.
It can bring awareness to the sport of skydiving.
Yeah.
He was very calm though, like cutting away at it. You know, that's. Do you keep like a pocket knife handy as well for those kind of eventualities?
I will.
Yeah, from now on, I
he
think.
cut himself free, so
Yeah,
he must do.
you must just have one. It must be kind of part of your kit. I guess, your emergency. I'm stuck on a plane kit.
Oh gosh, but those guys who just kept on jumping out, I was like, what's wrong with you? Go back inside.
Each one their own.
Come on. But anyway, thanks to our guest today, correspondent and columnist Gemma White and Al Arabiya English presenter Catalina Marchant de Abreu. And that's all from us on W News Extra. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Of course, follow us on X. G&T will be coming up next. Goodbye, thank you, and have a lovely evening.